Raj, thank you so much for joining us today in our Fire Up series
My pleasure,
with
sir.
a set of startup videos, interview videos. Every day, one startup picking on one specific aspect that the startup has managed well. Some in the current lockdown times, but some even in recent times, the last 6 to 12 months. So, just as a peer group, kind of perspective and insight sharing series. So, given everything you have done, you had built technology in the past that was kind of used a lot in the e-commerce space. That was the primary target. So, today we thought with you, we'll get your perspectives on e-commerce in the context. I mean, during this COVID and post-COVID times. It's a general perspective based on your observations. So, before we get started, Raj, can you just quickly share your journey, your entrepreneurial journey in the next few minutes?
Sure. So yeah, I'll quickly start with that. So uh, I've done two startups in the past. First one was in 2010, which was a home tutoring platform. I exited that in 2012, and then I worked with corporates like Accenture and CTS for about 4.5 years. Post that, I did my next startup, which was Fabulous, where we got associated with Triple IT as well. We were a team of four co-founders, and I looked after most of the non-tech functions at Fabulous.
So, so what I mean, how did you arrive at this product? What were your market observations when you chose either your first startup or the second startup?
Yeah.
What were the observations when you picked the idea for your startup and the
Yeah.
product?
So it has been a journey for me as well. Like the first one that I did was barely out of a, a structure that I needed, that I think was needed. So it was basically connecting the students from local area who could take a home tuition for your kid at home. And we just built a platform to connect both of these. I was doing this as a part time with my college, so I thought it would be a good idea to extend that and provide that feature, especially in a city like Udaipur, where people were very tightly linked and cared a lot about the education of the kids very particularly. So it picked up really well. 2 years was good learning. Next time when I wanted to get back, I had a lot of corporate experience as well, and I was evaluating more from an adoption point of view, a virality point of view, because 2016 was a time where a lot of these apps basically leverage this consumer behavior and monetize that very effectively. We were looking to build a new way to sell fashion commerce, which was completely assisted by AI. So the app, which was launched as Fabulous in 2016, was a personal assistant which used AI to understand the user's body specifics and the different style statements that they would want to make when shopping for fashion products. And using that, we launched it out in the market for the first 1.5 years. We had some very good learning experiences from there in terms of how the segment likes to shop, what are the intricacies which are helping create different niches. And after a year and a half, we pivoted B2B. So post B2B, we became purely a sales driven organization which had AI product to solve a lot of the tough work for the fashion industry. We did work with brands like Myntra for quite some time, and also engaged with a lot of big brands in US over the last 1 year as a sales organization. And yeah, that's been the journey so far. And yeah, we're
So, looking at
continuing with that.
e-commerce, I mean, you looked at kind of in some form e-commerce even in your first venture, but second venture was
Yeah,
directly looking at technology that can be used in
yeah,
e-commerce.
yeah.
So, looking at e-commerce in 16 and now in 20, 4 years, what are some of the differences you see in that whole
Yeah.
space, 16 compared to 20 now?
So to be very honest and upfront, the scene is very different across different kind of demographies. So if you look at US as a demography, things are very different on that market versus India as a demography, things are very different. Also because a lot of consolidation which is there in the market already. So I'll talk more specific to India in 2016 and 20 because I think there has been a huge change, and the last 2 months have sort of also been a driver for that, which is in the retailer's mindset, that now people have started thinking, how do I sell to people at home? Previously, while there was a push, but still a majority of the shopping, which was more than 90%, used to happen online. Last 2 months have been dry for everyone. So when we are starting from zero, a lot of retailers might want to anticipate or project at least a higher portion of sales coming from online. Especially the online specific retailers are also looking to build strategies to win the market in different ways, create different niches in there, uh, going more deeper into the quality of service that they are able to deliver. So I would say the change broadly has been in terms of the mindset of the organization, that previously a shopkeeper was looking to open 15 more shops or 10 more shops to scale his business, but now they want to move online. They want to use platforms, they want to create deeper engagement, solve real customer issues while they are sitting at home. So I think last 2 months have especially given it a lot of boost from a road mapping point of view, because nobody is able to execute. But when I talk to people that I've worked with from a lot of bigger retail groups in India, they are all strategizing now to retain the customer rather than just an acquisition strategy.
True. I think that's the biggest risk many businesses are seeing right now, that they might lose business in these times.
Yeah,
So, I mean, you're right. I think the whole e-commerce scene has shaped up very, very nicely in the last 4 years. Now, I think it's very, very common for people to order online. I think very, very high levels of comfort ordering online. And unlike all expectations, it's not like the brick and mortar is going away anytime soon either.
yeah,
I mean, so I think people make a very conscious choice. They know things that they want to order online, and they know things that they want to go and shop as well.
yeah,
But the hybrid strategy is something that's been kind of in recent last year, couple of years. I've been hearing a lot of ideas where they're leveraging a hybrid strategy. You go touch and feel in a
yeah,
store, bulk of the transactions happen
yeah,
online.
yeah,
Now, what you just mentioned about stores trying to get online because of the COVID, I think that whole strategy might get accelerated, right? What do you
yeah.
think? How will that whole strategy of hybrid, brick and mortar amplified by online, how do you see that segment shaping up now, given
So
these
I
two
think
months?
that segment has already been behind the scene, like shaping up really well in the last 1 year. And as we know, this 2 months have been I would say it has been a slump in terms of business, but it has really given them the time to think, because the machinery is no more there to worry about. So overall, when I see bigger organizations, I think everybody is thinking omnichannel at this time. People are highly convinced that it's not going to be a pure online or a pure offline kind of a model, and they are trying to set their boundaries as per their organization values. So some guys are trying to implement more physical ways of marketing and bringing the users back to stores by looking at their history and sending them the right recommendations, for example in fashion, saying that this is what would look good on you, why don't you come to the store and try it out. And on the other side, there are others which are just trying to track what you bought online so that they can improve your further online engagements. So from the smaller to bigger piece, there are different players looking at it. And I think this is one industry which is going to transform really fast because of the current events which are going on. Probably the next 1 year is going to be an amazing time for a startup to observe and meanwhile keep running experiments, uh, because things are going to move faster on the execution side right now. So
Mhm.
overall, from the game point of view, I think everybody has their strategies. Every retailer has their own value specific scale model that they've been working on because of the
Mhm.
growth of the digital models elsewhere in different economies. But I think it will gain a real push in the coming 1 year, and startups working in this area would also see a lot of custom requests coming from retailers talking about specific projects of their pieces, and how they could leverage the startup's potential to build that up.
Hmm. So we one of our startups, which is in the kind of the non-branded pharmacy space, not the chains, but the individual neighborhood stores.
Yeah,
Uh, and they built initially they said they would automate their backend. They started off with 2 years back, 1.5 2 years back.
yeah,
It get some traction, but then there's no revenue increase for the pharmacy, so they didn't actually get a big bite. In that
yeah,
process, they discovered that they could actually provide upselling options to the pharmacists,
yeah,
like home tests or like renting medical equipment and that kind of stuff. And they got a very good traction. And they
yeah,
primarily focus on non-branded chains, because branded chains can do this differently.
yeah,
And now they discovered in the last month, the same stores earlier were kind of reluctant to kind of order online. Though they had that module, there was a loyalty part. Every customer of theirs had the app, but they were not very keen on pushing it. Now they're all asking.
yeah,
And I think now if they do it for these 2 months, I'm sure they'll continue that as a practice. What
yeah,
other sectors do you see? I mean, pharmacy is one that we're already seeing that traction. The ask is coming from the pharmacy themselves.
yeah.
What other sectors do you think can kind of take off in this whole hybrid model?
So To be very honest, I'm myself observing in terms of what other models are going to evolve, because everybody who interacts with the audience and wants to interact at a scale is looking at these hybrid models even for B2B kind of companies, not typically just B2C. Because a lot of these guys have now started thinking, initially they used to do only on floor sales or only online sales to scale their models, and now they are more inclined in terms of mixing the two, trying to see how can they record the interactions in between and move towards that. To give you a specific example, I think the hiring industry is going to see a lot of changes
Yeah.
overall. The current company that I'm working with is into basically providing this physical assistance to guys online. So for
Hmm.
example, providing the right sort of delivery guys for somebody like a Swiggy or Zomato, or the driver for an Ola, or a blue collar workforce, or the gray collar workforce, to be more precise, right? And we are
Hmm.
seeing a huge change in terms of how these guys were sourced. So what we are observing is, previously when it used to be a completely physical model wherein somebody would be literally standing at a railway station trying to source
Hmm.
these guys into a pipeline, now
Huh.
things have moved to a different way wherein we ourselves are running lakhs of WhatsApp messages every day, trying to reach
Huh.
out to people, getting them on chatbots, and then converting them by actually providing them a job in the next 24 hours. So I think that is another industry which will see a lot of change. And I think one more thing which is sort of picking up, a sector of SaaS, which is more around simplifying the way you work, or tracking more, enabling more of less intrusive tracking. So
Hmm.
while a lot of these companies, like, because the true reality is everybody is looking at just fixed costs right now,
Hmm.
and in your office, your number of fixed employees, everything counts as fixed cost. When revenues goes to zero, everything becomes very, very pinching at times, right? So
Hmm.
while people are thinking about that, they're trying to create strategies wherein they are looking to now probably build more of, what do you say, teams that have partially work from home,
Hmm.
partial work from office kind of strategies. They are adopting a lot of tools which were not there. We see a huge slump in the adoption of Zoom as a
Hmm.
platform, while there have been security concerns, right? So there is a huge flux in terms of people trying to find out solutions of how do you work offline, how
Hmm.
can you
Hmm.
not be in office and still show up with the same sort of efficiencies in your work. So that's another sector which I see is going to be transformed massively, because a lot of
Hmm.
products were available. Best part is that the products were available, and now because of the events they have seen a lot of growth uh,
Hmm.
in the overall adoption cycles.
So you're right. I think the fact that now they're all working with distributed teams. Now while it's a reality for the startup themselves, but at some level it's also a threat and opportunity for their business.
Yeah,
Depending on what their engagement model was for their product with their customers, maybe they have to reimagine the way they interact with their customers.
yeah,
If they're expecting them to be working from an office, maybe now they should expect that they're going to be working from anywhere. So they have to reimagine the way the product interfaces with the users. So that's
right.
one impact of in terms of how they define their interfaces. But the bigger opportunity is like this whole kind of trying to leverage the remote and the online offline models.
Yeah.
So what would be your tips? I mean, if you had to give some suggestions to startups that are kind of looking at this new reality that's emerging, what could they do? Things that they could consider in their either in the product or in the business models to tap into this.
So my view right now is, especially for startups in early phases, is to be very, very cautious about your business models, because I'm seeing a lot of negative impact happening on business models which were not showing cash positiveness in
Hmm.
eventual reality, and now you don't have those absurd numbers to build your projections on. So
Uh,
I think chasing sustainability is like just a simple point to put out there. But in case you
uh,
want to go deeper into that, then I would recommend in general observing a lot and talking to your customers a lot in this space, because
uh,
you never know, some new pivots might emerge out of it, which would actually shape the new reality. So while we speak of the new reality, honestly,
it's
I
still
don't
emerging.
feel people have a hang of it still over there. Like,
True.
initially when it started, it was a shock. People took about couple of weeks in absorbing that, accepting that, then thinking about how can we come out of it. A lot of ideas came out, right? But
Hmm.
you will see only a few surviving out of it.
Hmm.
And what I'm able to observe, it's all about the essentials. The cost of life versus the cost of lifestyle has very clearly been put in front of the end consumer.
Hmm.
And when you look at essentials, they are going to pick up. There will be a lot of boom, I believe, in general, and there will be change in the customer behavior as well, wherein customers will be willing to work with the businesses to get these essentials and these services directly at home.
Hmm.
When you talk about luxury, there might be a different plan or a strategy altogether, because this is not a typical economic crash per se. It's a simple pause that has been brought
Hmm.
in, which has basically dried up the cash flows for a couple of months.
Huh.
So when this comes back, there would be a lot of things which you can anticipate, and I think the organizations at this time should have series of plans ready without being in a haste to push any button. And when
Hmm.
you have those triggers, those pivots on an Excel sheet, you can decide at the right time what you need to do. So don't panic, just prepare and observe is basically what I'm doing.
I
And
think that,
I would,
I think that's a great suggestion. I mean, just jot down because you can't even decide right now. You only can observe, like you rightly said. You can observe and spot possibilities, but you have to wait before you can confirm. So it's a good idea just to jot down the ideas and then just see when you can validate and then roll it out. So yeah, that's a great suggestion. So before we wrap up, Raj, one growth hack tip from your experience, nothing to do with e-commerce or COVID, from your experiences with your two startups, one growth hack tip you will give any startup.
so I think the biggest growth hack is LinkedIn, uh, especially at a founder level or somebody who can like alter the roadmap. And for an early stage startup, it's all about opportunities, how you are shaping them in your balance sheet. And to get opportunities, I think LinkedIn is an amazing space. So since the day, like before probably a few months that I started off and got full time into Fabulous 2016, I've been having a practice of just doing or contacting some interesting people on LinkedIn. So interest is not necessarily in terms of business. It could also be in terms of, for me, it's also in terms of at times values, at times different kind of things that people achieve. And there is no harm in sending them a request with a simple message on LinkedIn. And
Hmm.
a lot of times these guys connect. You get a chance to pitch to them unknowingly. A lot of things happen, and a startup needs these kinds of events for quick growth. And I think that's the best growth hack. And if you look at today's
Huh.
time frame, previously, like post COVID times, when I used to send requests to 10 people, probably one of them would accept it, and out of the 10 who have accepted, 3 would give me a meeting. But in today's time frame, out of 10 that I approach, at least 4 or 5 give them a meeting. So people have a lot of time in front of screens, so leveraging that
Hmm. Hmm.
right now is also a good point. And overall in general it
Huh.
helps a lot, because you can just speak out to people, and when there is, like, when you get into these calls, you get to understand a lot about your business from their point of view. So it's important to be
So
aware of
that
that.
makes no, very interesting actually. I mean, I haven't seen anybody put it as specifically. I mean, everybody says use LinkedIn as a channel, but saying that that is the growth active, I think it makes a lot of sense. I don't think enough people leverage it, and most people are okay. Unlike in Facebook and other places, in
Yeah,
LinkedIn, they're okay if you get
yeah,
a cold query
yeah,
because you're looking for business. Everybody's looking for some kind
right.
of a business link. So they
Yeah.
don't mind if the query is right; they will respond. I
Yeah.
think that's a
Fortunately,
fantastic.
today is the time when people are just open to speak up and discuss in terms of issues. So I think we should
Uh,
leverage that. First place to go to is the customers directly that you work with, so that you learn more about how their businesses are going to run, because that's how you
yes.
shape up your strategy. But just apart from that, there is no harm even contacting a competitor at times, because you
Uh,
never know when you can collaborate and learn from insights. So
uh,
like while we were at Fabulous, I think we spoke with almost everybody, all the founders, and they were very open to talk about the things which were there, and
uh,
that gave us a lot of boost overall as a startup
uh.
in the space.
No, makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. So, Raj, thank you so much for joining us today in this session, in this Fire Up series. And wish you, Komal and others, all the very best in
Thank
your
you, sir.
journeys in this new stage of your entrepreneurial journey. And please stay safe and all the best.
Yeah.